Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
1, 1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we...
Welcome into the Bob Sullivan Show here on latenightsportsradio.com. If you'd like to call in, the call-in number is 585-633-7487. We have a bit of a show tonight. I was supposed to have a guest on here live, but he neglected to show up to my house. So I have kind of a jumbled schedule here. I got Thomas Murphy from ProFootballCentral.com here to start hour number one. Thomas, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, Bob. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. It was, I can't say it's always fun, but it was fun the first time we had.
It sure was.
I had you on the show, so it was fun the first time. Let's hope that we can get the magic back this second time. As far as the Deflategate goes, the last time I had you on when we talked about it, we didn't think that there was a way that Brady would not play. And the way we determined that the Patriots would play without him was there was nothing but good that could come out of this for Brady, whether he was suspended or not. What is your take now that he is suspended? What's your view of the league, and what's your view of Brady as far as, are you wavered one way or another on him being suspended?
No, I really haven't. The investigation itself was a sham, and that really came out during the first court case when Brady took it in front of Berman. Berman basically eviscerated everything that was in the Wells report, and the fact as to whether or not Roger Goodell acted as an impartial arbiter. He was shown that was impossible. When it was overturned, it just went to prove that he doesn't have to be impartial, that this is what the Players Association signed off for, and, tough noogies, for lack of a better word, you signed off on this is the way it's going to be. And Brady basically decided that it was better to know when the suspension was coming than to not know when the suspension was going to hit, because there was a very small chance that this was going to be heard by the Supreme Court, even if he did get a stay. So better the first 4 games of the season than the last 4 games of this season, and possibly the playoffs. So that's the way it turned out. No, my opinion of Brady hasn't changed one bit. I think this was completely blown out of proportion from the get-go. A simple violation, if it was true, that others had received a fine for, Tom Brady got the harshest penalty that, the league could possibly throw down. Well, not the harshest. I mean, they even said it in the court case, if you wanted to suspend Brady for a year, could the commissioner do that? And they said yes. Well, he gave him a quarter of the year for something that was never proven. And that's the way it is. And Tom just decided that this is the way I'm going to go, and that's that. We'll just take it, and I'll take the 4 games. I'll live with the fact that I know I didn't do anything wrong, and at least my team can prepare for those first 4 games in the way that they need to.
As far as number of Kennedy heads, how many would you give it as far as conspiracies go?
Kennedy heads?
Yeah, as far as number of Kennedys, as far as a conspiracy that against Brady and the Patriots.
Let's give it 5. How about that?
Okay. Well,
I'll go right down the middle.
That's fair. I don't think that this is the worst thing that's happened to, as far as the NFL, with egg on their face. Yeah. The Ray Rice is probably the worst thing.
True.
But this is pretty bad. And Goodell, he's never going to lose his job because he keeps making the league money. But at a certain, and he's going to get out before all these concussion. Obviously, the NFL's been sued year after year for some kind of concussion thing. But Goodell's going to get out before they start losing money and losing players. And there's a even more massive, before somebody dies. He's going to get out before somebody dies on the field. And he'll be fine. He'll be monetarily, he'll be fine. But he's just such a scumbag, in my opinion, that it's tough to, I don't even know who would want the job. Like, obviously, anybody that takes the job after him is going to look better, but I don't know who would want the job in the wake of what's coming as far as the NFL goes.
I'll take it. I love the heat. I love the pressure. Bring it on. The banner of integrity that he runs around with is really going to be his downfall, because everybody knows that there is no integrity in this man's office. There is no integrity at the league office at all. It's all about making money. If it wasn't, teams wouldn't be jumping from town to town the way they do. Players wouldn't be hit with a slap on the wrist for physically assaulting women, sexually assaulting women, and of the like. It comes down to the almighty dollar for him, and as long as he's still making money for the league, they're going to keep him in there. He's not leaving until he wants to leave. The owners are not going to push him out because for whatever reason they think he's doing a good job, because every time contracts come up, he ends up making them more money. He keeps pulling the wool over the Players Association by dangling a few more dollars at them instead of letting them and getting the Players Association to ignore the real underlying problems, like concussions, like an expanded season, like expanded playoffs. Coming up, the Players Association has a huge chip that they're going to be able to play, and I'm very interested as to whether or not they play it, and that's the expansion of the league into Europe. Goodell is going to want to play more and more games in Europe. Are the players going to say no to this unless Goodell changes some other things that they've wanted him to change in the past? Things like his judge, jury, and executioner rights, the rights for drug testing. I think I've written at nauseum, at length, over the last 2 collective bargaining agreements to stop dragging players' names through the mud because they happen to smoke weed. I think it's the most ridiculous thing on the planet. Things of that nature. How they go about this next collectively bargained contract between the two is going to steer the owners either in a new direction or not, based on what Goodell is going to be able to get over on the players in this round of contract talks.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to expect as far as, it always seems like the obvious reason why the players panic and sign a deal is because the players are foolish with their money, and then the people
and their contracts, their lifespan is so short. They can't really afford to take a year or 2 years off of their careers. The owners basically have them over a barrel in that respect.
You can't even take 6 months off, really.
Right.
And it's sad, but Goodell knows that. Mm-hmm. The owners know that.
Right.
Tagliabue knew that, but he was more of a players commissioner than anything else, and he was willing to give a little bit more wiggle room, which led to the owners not making quite as much money, or the league not being worth as much money.
Right.
But as far as Goodell goes, do you think he will? How many more bargaining agreements do you think he has left in him with this?
Depending on this one coming up, either 1 or 7. He's I'm convinced that he's too big a megalomaniac to ever walk away from this job, and as long as he keeps doing well by the owners, they're not going to ask him to leave.
Okay, well, on to baseball and the trade deadline. As far as being a Red Sox fan, invested in the Red Sox a little bit, what do you want the Red Sox to do, and what do you want the Yankees not to do come this trade?
Well, I would like let's start with the evil empire. I would like the Yankees to not trade any of their back end pieces to any other teams in the American League East. I would like to say have them send Chapman and or Miller to the National League, possibly to the Dodgers, and because the Dodgers are just going to end up being the Dodgers anyway, and screwing up whatever happens, and not making a dent in the playoffs. As far as the Red Sox are concerned, right now I'm really happy with the way this team is made up. Kelly is coming back. He was just called back up from Pawtucket. He's going to fit nicely into the bullpen, which is what I said they should have done with this kid 2 years ago when they got him. I really don't know why they let him talk him into putting him in the rotation. I think he's going to be a great setup man. But I would, if Koji is going to be out for any length of time, I'd really like to see them get another arm in that bullpen. There's been a lot of talk about Chris Sale over the past few days. I don't know if I want to get held up for the price that Chris Sale is going to demand, the way I'm hearing things right now. The White Sox want upwards of 5 top prospects. I would love to see Chris Sale on this team. I am not a prospect hoarder by any means, but we just made a deal for another fine number 3 starter. I don't want to give up the entire farm system to bring Chris Sale in here, even though he is locked up for a few years on what could be the best contract in baseball.
As far as Aroldis Chapman goes, it looks like he's going to the Cubs for the number 1 overall prospect there. What is your stance as far as what are you like? Are you a big fan of giving up a big piece when you're down and then giving it up for some pieces for the future? Where do you stand as far as trade deadline deals go? Are you a big believer? Well, I guess obviously you are because of Minkiewicz and Orlando Cabrera back in the day. But is this the one sport where trade deadline deals really make a difference? And what are you willing to give up? What's too much to give up for a closer or whatever it is?
Well, for a closer, I'm not giving up the far. I don't, especially with Chapman. Chapman's a rental. I really don't understand why the Cubs, unless they can ink him before the deal is made, would give up the type of talent that they're, giving up for him. There are not a lot of players out. There are teams out there that want him, but nobody is lining up to sell off their farm to get him, just simply because he's not under contract. If you have somebody that's under contract for 3-4 years, like Chris Sale, for a true frontline starter, I can understand giving up that point. I think baseball is the one sport where you can bring a piece in and it will make that kind of difference. Dave Price did that for 2 teams in the last 2 years. He was a fantastic addition to both Toronto and Detroit. It's happened before. Bringing in a bona fide superstar at the trade deadline in baseball is so game changing. It's unbelievable for a team that is for a sport where it's a team of 24 people. In no other sport does one individual player make the kind of changes that it does in baseball as opposed to anywhere else. In basketball, there's a chemistry that has to be built right away. In football, there's not that, there's many trade deadline, the trade deadline in football is kind of irrelevant. But it doesn't work out the same way. You can't bring in a quarterback to save the day at the trade deadline. You can certainly bring in a wide receiver or a running back or whatever that's going to help you, but it's not going to make the impact that bringing in a frontline starter or a true power bat where that you really need. They don't get you over the hump. They don't change team chemistry. They don't on both ends, because it can truly take the sails out of a team that is borderline when that team is looking to build towards the future, and it can also, carry a team that is on the cusp of doing something in the playoffs and turn them into a real World Series contender or a real championship contender. No other sport it happens the way it does in baseball. I love the trade deadline in baseball. I just wish it was sooner. I think it should be 2 to 3 weeks sooner in the season than it is now. And that would open up more deals after the deadline. I love what happens after the deadline when people have to go through waivers, and it's one of the most exciting times in baseball. It's why I love baseball the way I do.
Yeah, with the trade deadline in football, it's more, the fun part is, well, with football and basketball, it's the cool things that could happen.
Right.
And it's like, I think last year there was deals that should happen that won't happen, which is pretty much every NFL deal. It's like Calvin Johnson to the Falcons for Roddy White and like 3 first-round picks or something. And it's like, yeah, okay, that would be a pretty cool deal.
Yep.
That's never going to happen.
No.
And NBA, it's a lot of fun because of the trade. What do you call it? The trade.
Important security message. Please call the number provided as soon as possible. You will be guided for the removal of the adware spyware virus on your computer.
Easy.
Seeing these pop-ups means that you have a virus installed on your computer, which puts the security of your personal data at a serious risk. It's strongly advised that you call the number provided and get your computer fixed before you do any shopping online. Important security message. Please call the number provided as soon as possible.